What if I told you a yoga brand got sued for $150 million for paying Kendall Jenner and Bella Hadid in secret? This is how Alo Yoga almost destroyed itself after stealing Lululemon's crown. It all began in the 90s. The idea of practicing yoga in a gym or in a group class was just starting to become popular in North America. Back then, women used to wear generic sportswear or cotton garments that were not very functional. That's where Chip Wilson, founder of Lululemon, saw an opportunity to create clothing designed specifically for movement, stretching, and sweating, but with enough style to wear outside the gym. What he didn't imagine was that he was about to create a new consumption category, athleisure. That mix between athletic clothing and casual fashion that today dominates the streets, offices, and social media. Lululemon didn't just sell leggings, it sold a philosophy. It turned yoga into an aspirational lifestyle, into a common language among those seeking balance, health, and success. The brand built communities, organized mindfulness events, and achieved what few companies managed to do: unite physical wellness with social status. In little more than a decade, it went from being a small store in Vancouver to a multinational valued at more than $40 billion. But, as happens in every success story, Lululemon's reign sowed its own challenge. And then two LA friends decided to betray everything Lululemon stood for. As it grew, it also became more corporate, more focused on expansion and financial performance. And in that authenticity vacuum, Alo Yoga was born. Founded in Los Angeles in 2007 by Danny Harris and Marco de Georg. Their vision was not to compete directly with Lululemon, but to elevate the spirituality of yoga to a sensory, aesthetic, and digital experience. Alo understood that the new generations not only wanted to look good doing yoga. They wanted to belong to something bigger. They wanted to show it. And that's where the true cultural revolution begins. Alo Yoga presented itself to the world not as a clothing brand, but as a global movement of consciousness and style. From the beginning, its strategy was very different. While Lululemon built local communities, Alo built a digital community. It took advantage of the rise of Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and turned its garments with clean lines, neutral tones, and luxury fabrics into visually irresistible pieces. Its clothing was not only comfortable, it was photogenic. Every collection seemed designed to be part of a perfectly curated feed. And that changed everything. Lululemon's ambassadors were local instructors. Alo Yoga's were global influencers. Celebrities, models, and wellness figures with millions of followers. Names like Kendall Jenner, Hailey Bieber, Bella Hadid, and Gigi Hadid began wearing Alo publicly, turning the brand into a symbol of modern wellness. The one that mixes meditation, smoothies, minimalist luxury, and aspirational content. And then they signed the most powerful women on Instagram. What could possibly go wrong? In addition to their official campaigns, both Alo Yoga and Lululemon have relied heavily on influencers and ambassadors to accelerate their cultural presence, but not without stumbling blocks. In the case of Alo Yoga, in April 2025, the class action lawsuit, Sulichi et al. V. Color Image Apparel, D. B.A. Alo Yoga et al. Was filed in the Northern District Court of Illinois, accusing Alo and 14 influencers of promoting their products without clearly disclosing that they were sponsorships, leading consumers to pay higher prices, believing they were independent recommendations. The plaintiffs claim more than US $150 million in damages. In addition, well-known instructor Briony Smythe filed a lawsuit in 2025 for age discrimination against Alo, alleging that after turning 41 her compensation was cut almost in half and her contract ended prematurely, which generated criticism of the brand for favoring influencer-friendly aesthetics. On the other hand, Lululemon has built an ambassador program that mixes local yoga trainers with global celebrities, recently signing K-pop star Kazuha, Group Lee Seraphim, as a global ambassador. However, it has also been the subject of controversies. For example, a fake post about ambassador programs generated a scandal for like farming. In short, Alo faces a real reputational crisis linked to influencer marketing, while Lululemon carefully navigates its global ambassador ecosystem, aware that a single slip can damage its premium reputation. While Lululemon bet on the expansion of physical stores, Alo built a digital empire. It invested in high-end audiovisual production, creating yoga studios in Los Angeles that streamed online classes before fitness streaming became fashionable. Alo didn't sell clothing. It sold a visual, emotional, and communal experience. Its strategy worked. In 2015, when many brands were still trying to survive the digital shift, Alo Yoga was already a viral brand. And not because of paid advertising, but because of shared culture. Content creators and celebrities adopted it as a synonym for elevated energy. In the words of its founders, Alo is not just what you wear, it's how you feel. And meanwhile, Lululemon began to notice something worrying. Its products were still high quality, but the cultural conversation had changed. On social media, the new generations were not talking about technical performance, but about style, emotional connection, and authenticity. Alo Yoga had managed to own the most difficult terrain of all, the perception of desire. Wait until you hear how much money they're actually making. But Alo's success was no coincidence. Its growth was a perfectly planned choreography. It took advantage of three external market forces: the explosion of digital content, the rise of wellness as a social aspiration, and the search for quiet luxury that characterized post-pandemic fashion. While other brands struggled to differentiate themselves, Alo was already a natural part of that visual language of calm, self-care, and effortless success. That synchronicity between culture and strategy was its secret weapon. Alo built alliances with Apple Fitness Plus, Amazon, and streaming platforms, expanding its reach to new audiences. At the same time, it opened flagships in iconic locations like Beverly Hills and New York, not as stores, but as sensory temples where the shopping experience blended with classes, aromas, music, and community. Each space was an extension of its narrative: elevate mind, body, and soul. In 2023, Alo's revenues exceeded $1.5 billion, with double-digit annual growth. An impressive figure considering that just a few years earlier it was seen as a niche brand. Today, Alo competes directly with Lululemon, not only in sales but in cultural relevance, a terrain where perception is everything. And this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Because what began as a sportswear competition became a battle of philosophies. Lululemon represents discipline, structure, performance. Alo represents fluidity, aesthetics, and emotional connection. Two visions of wellness, two ways of understanding success. While Lululemon has tried to regain ground with technological collaborations and new segments, such as footwear or men's lines, Alo continues to expand its empire towards integral luxury, skincare, lifestyle, and premium audiovisual content. It is building what many experts call the LVMH of wellness. Alo does not compete to sell more garments. It competes to be the epicenter of a culture. And that is much more powerful. But every revolution has its price. The accelerated growth of Alo has also brought operational challenges. Maintaining quality, avoiding saturation of its image, and sustaining its spiritual narrative in an increasingly commercial market. Some critics point out that its wellness message can feel elitist, and that the luxury of mindfulness runs the risk of becoming superficial. However, the founders seem to have their purpose clear: to make yoga and consciousness aspirational without losing authenticity. But not everything was a rise without setbacks for Alo Yoga. The brand became involved in a series of controversies derived from its influencer marketing strategy. In 2025, a class action lawsuit accused Alo and more than a dozen influencers of promoting its products without disclosing that they were sponsorships, which the plaintiffs argue led them to pay high prices believing they were authentic recommendations. The claims point to damages of more than $150 million. Internally, the brand also faced criticism for supposedly prioritizing a teenage influencer-friendly aesthetic over diversity and the traditional yoga community, which caused tensions with old ambassadors and specialized content creators. To counteract this vulnerability, Alo responded by strengthening its disclosure controls on networks, adjusting its ambassador strategy, and emphasizing that more than 90% of its turnover comes from digital commerce, which according to reports reinforces its control over the message. Thanks to this, the brand recovered momentum, maintained its annual growth rate around 40% and exceeded $1,000 million in sales in 2022. In recent interviews, Harris and Degeorg have insisted that their goal is not to dominate the market, but to raise the frequency of the planet through what they create. It may sound utopian, but it is precisely that mix between idealism and strategy that has made Alo a phenomenon. In this contest of titans, Lululemon still holds the crown in volume and global penetration. With annual revenue that exceeded US $10.6 billion in 2024. But Alo Yoga is closing the gap at an explosive rate. Estimated at more than US $1 billion in annual sales for 2022, and with growth of more than 40% per year. Lululemon remains strong among consumers who value technical quality, performance and traditional wellness community, while Alo captures a younger, urban audience oriented to the look, lifestyle, and digital status. The confrontation is not only about product, but about philosophy. Lululemon is discipline, Alo is desire. As for scandals, Lululemon has starred in a legal battle with Costco for alleged dupes of its designs, claiming that the chain sold imitations of its iconic products for less than US $20, compared to its price of more than US $100. For its part, Alo has been criticized for its dependence on influencer marketing and for the mix of spirituality with commercialism, which opened debates about authenticity and brand values. In short, Lululemon maintains the advantage in scale, but Alo gains momentum in culture, relevance, and aspiration. The question is, who will dictate the rules of athleisure in the next decade? But the real question is, who wins the next 10 years? And maybe that is the greatest lesson of this story, that in the modern world of business, it is no longer enough to manufacture an excellent product. You have to build an emotional narrative, a shared belief system, an experience that makes people feel they are part of something bigger. Lululemon invented athleisure, but Alo Yoga reinvented what it means to live it. Right? Alo wins if you think Alo wins the decade. Right? Lulu crown if you believe Lululemon keeps the crown. I read every single comment.